A boy, a bag, a paper route. Several years ago, I discovered a paper route could be detrimental to a mother's health. When our 13-year-old son Chuck announced his intention of becoming a paper boy for the local paper, the Oak Ridger, we gave him our blessing. The Oak Ridger assigned him a route in the Emory Heights section of Oak Ridge, and Chuck proudly picked up his delivery bag made of green cotton fabric. Each weekday afternoon after school, he pedaled off on his blue bicycle. He picked up his 80 papers about 1/4 mile from our house. Then he spent the next couple of hours delivering them. It took time to learn the route and the idiosyncrasies of its customers. Some wanted their paper left on the front porch, some in the carport. Others wanted it placed beside the driveway or 3 inches to the left of the back step. Collecting the monthly bill was another challenging experience. The customers who made the most money seemed to have the most excuses for not paying Chuck. "Come back later. I only have a $100 bill. I'm sure I already paid you this month. Are you really my paper boy?" Chuck was a dependable paper boy most of the time, even though he occasionally threw papers on the roof or into the bushes. We always knew when he had a careless day because his customers phoned us to complain. We complained, too, to Chuck. Chuck came down with mononucleosis toward the end of his sophomore year in high school. The doctor told him to stay home for 1 week and rest. Chuck found a substitute paper boy for the first 4 days of his route. However, he couldn't find anyone to deliver the papers on Friday afternoon. His father, Dan, was coaching track, and his sister, Candy, had dance lessons. I, his faithful mother, agreed to do the route after I returned home from work. Dan promised to come and help me after track practice. Chuck told me where to find the papers. He gave me his customer list and handed me his green Oak Ridger bag. I pulled the strap over my head and marched outside, ready for delivery duty. The temperature was about 70 degrees. It was a great opportunity to be outdoors and help my son at the same time. With a smile on my face, I strolled leisurely up the block to the corner of Dayton and Carnegie. I found several bundles of papers at the foot of a towering oak tree, just as Chuck said. I removed the Oak Ridger bag and untied the twine on the bundles. Then I began to stuff all 80 papers into the bag. The Friday edition included the weekend section, so the papers were thicker than usual. The bag bulged dangerously at the seams, but I forced every single paper inside. Then I tried to hoist the bag up to place the strap over my head. It was heavier than expected, so I fell to my knees and tried again, resting the bag on the ground this time. The papers felt as heavy as cinder blocks. Grabbing the tree trunk, I pulled myself up. Finally, I stood hunched over like a Neanderthal woman. The bag weighed so much that I couldn't keep my balance. How did a scrawny guy like my son have the strength to lug this huge bag of papers around and pedal a bicycle at the same time? Lurching ahead, I pulled out my delivery list and wobbled down the road like a seasick giraffe. When I positioned the bag in front of me, I tilted forward. When I pushed the bag behind me, I leaned backward. The only way I could successfully control the bag was to perch it on my left hip and cling to it desperately as I swayed from side to side. As I approached the first steep driveway on the route, I felt like Sisyphus pushing the rock up the mountain. For every 2 or 3 papers I delivered, I collapsed on the curb to rest. Then I had to struggle upright again. I staggered up hills and fell down driveways. I skinned both knees trying to run away from a snarling white terrier. The load of papers grew heavier instead of lighter as my legs tired. After 2 hours of torture, I was not even halfway done with the route. I wondered which level of Dante's Inferno I had entered and how long it was going to last. Suddenly, a voice yelled out behind me. "Honey, are you drunk?" asked my husband, laughing. "You're teetering all over the road." Then he noticed the Oak Ridger bag swollen with papers protruding from my hip. "Did you put all 80 papers in the bag at one time?" "Isn't that what I was supposed to do?" I snapped. "Chuck delivers 1/3 of the papers at a time. Then he returns and gets another bunch. That bag must weigh a ton. No wonder you're staggering around." "Well, I've never delivered Chuck's papers before. He didn't explain the process to me," I whined. "Give me the bag and I'll help you finish the route. With both of us doing it, maybe we'll be done before dark," Dan responded. Gratefully, I relinquished the bag and we delivered the remaining papers. Trudging home, I moaned all the way. My back ached, my neck hurt, my feet throbbed. As I fell asleep that Friday night, I prayed fervently that Chuck's swift recovery would come so he could resume his paper route. A mother will do anything for her child, but this mother will only do it once.